The theme of the podcast is helping people turn their passions into their livelihoods through freedom technology. Today, I'm here with Matt Rosen, the CEO of Splinterlands. Hello, Matt.
Hey, Andrew. Thanks for having me. Great to talk to you again.
Yeah, always great seeing you. So, typically, the way that we structure these interviews is you talk about what you've done, where you're going, and then how you help people turn their passions into their livelihoods. I don't know. Does that theme even resonate with what you're doing in Splinterlands? I think it does. Like, that's how I definitely see that in what you guys do. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
I mean, yeah, that's literally what Splinterlands is, turning my passion for building games and for blockchain, crypto, and freedom tech into my job, into my livelihood. So pretty spot on.
But also for your players, right? These are people. There's that element too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if necessarily playing Splinterlands or games would be enough to be someone's full livelihood, but at least, but it can be definitely for some people, and definitely for people in different places around the world. But even in the United States or countries like that, where you may not earn a living off gaming, it's still a way to get value out of your hobbies and the things that you enjoy versus just like wasting money on those things. So it's a big shift in that mindset.
Yeah, where I see us going as a society, or where I want us to be going as a society, is you're not just doing one thing to support yourself. You're doing lots of things that you hopefully enjoy, and earning revenue and supporting yourself. Is that kind of how you see things?
Yeah, and I look at it less also like from an earning revenue perspective. And I think that's one of the misconceptions that led to a lot of the bad things in the last bull market with gaming and the whole play to earn. And it's really very like Ponzi scheme type of mechanics where everyone's coming in and trying to earn livings or earn money from all these games. And I also like that. To me, is a very short-term mindset, and that it's also the mindset that kind of separates the rich from the poor, the haves from the have-nots. Is that the rich and the successful generally look more long-term, and their goal is to build up valuable assets, and the lower classes or the poorer people in society look more for like how much can I earn every hour for my labor. Which isn't a bad thing, and obviously there's lots of things in society that force that to happen, but I think it's the wrong way to look at blockchain gaming and all this blockchain and crypto stuff in general. It's the path to success, I think, is less about how much can I earn every hour or week or month, and more how can I build up valuable assets that that appreciate over the long term. And that's how you really build up wealth, I think. So that's what we focus on. That's what I focus on personally. That's kind of what we focus on at Splinterlands, is like encouraging people to do that, not come in and just sell everything every day and see how much you can get, but more try to just build up your account, build up your wallet with the most assets possible. And then assuming that this is successful over time, that can work out to real life-changing value for people versus just a relatively small daily income.
I think that's a really important point. I totally agree with you, and I think that the tragedy is that so many people are mindset is pushed on them to think in the hourly way. That's the tragedy. Is you're not saying that poor people are bad or working hourly. These people are stupid or making bad decisions. The tragedy is seeing that they're pushed into thinking and seeing the world like that, and that is to an extent what makes them poor.
Well, if I could jump in on that, there are also in many cases, and I say they, like I'm in that category too, literally not allowed to invest in the type of assets that certain other people are, right? The whole accredited investor laws, like you can't invest in new startups and companies unless you are already rich, right? I mean, it's and I know it's all under the guise of protecting investors, but it literally keeps people who aren't rich from doing the things that got the rich people rich in the first place. And then, even in investing in real estate and, getting loans from banks and all these things, like you need credit scores. They ask you a million questions. I mean, it took me like 6 months of work, it was during COVID, but, to get a home equity loan on my house, which I then bought Bitcoin with, because what else would you do? Rates were low, housing prices were high. But it was really hard, right? They wanted to see all these different things, letters from my accountants, business stuff. It was like crazy. They do everything they can to kind of stop you from having the opportunities. And, someone, famous rich person or whatever goes in, they probably get whatever they want, and they have the opportunities. And that's where blockchain and crypto comes in. Right now, everyone has the opportunity equally, and there are no gatekeepers. No one tells you can't buy Bitcoin or hold Bitcoin or ETH or any of the other cryptocurrencies. No one, and you can effectively invest in companies like Splinterlands or in products like Splinterlands and things like that, not through typical share ownership, but you can get the assets, you can get the cards in the game, the NFTs, the tokens, and all that stuff. And again, you don't need permission or approval. You don't need a certain amount of wealth to do that. And again, like, a lot of people think, wow, this is new and it's this crazy thing that's never been around before. But like, to me, I look on my wall, which you can't see because of my background, but I have my collection of Magic the Gathering cards, and I'm like, it's the I was basically able to invest sort of in the game, in the product Magic the Gathering, by just buying those cards, and that worked out for me as they've become valuable investment items over time. So it's not really anything new or different. It's just the first time that it's been able to happen digitally versus physically, and that makes it even more accessible and easy to participate for people. So to me, that's what's the real benefit of this whole technology. It's just, it democratizes access to assets for people digitally all over the world.
I think you made some really good points in there, and you made me think about it in a slightly different way, because as you were speaking, I saw the double tragedy in it. That one is people are blocked from participating in various ways, but the double tragedy is that because you're blocked, you're losing the education as well, and that may even be more damaging to the people. And so seeing Splinterlands as, even if the way you were talking about it, I saw it as almost this subtle and enjoyable way of giving people that education. When you're talking about, that's how we think about Splinterlands and that's how we design Splinterlands. So you mentioned Magic the Gathering. I happen to know, because we know each other so long and we've talked so much before, that Magic the Gathering plays a meaningful part in the story of Splinterlands. So maybe now is a good time to go back, cover Splinterlands for anyone who doesn't already know about it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Splinterlands is a blockchain-based trading card game, so it's a similar idea to Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, Hearthstone, all that stuff. It's obviously it's digital and it's blockchain-based. So that with Magic and Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, you buy cards in a store and they're yours. You own them. You can resell them. There's a ton of secondary market value. Hundreds of millions of dollars of these cards that sell on eBay and in shops and everything, and that's all money that goes to people who bought the cards. None of that goes to the company that made them. So the people who play participate in the value creation. But then as games went digital, like with everything else that went digital, that part of it was completely lost. And to me, that's part of also the fun of the game, right? It's not just playing, it's trading the cards, it's opening the packs, it's getting the really rare cards, it's reselling them, it's all this stuff. Like, that makes the game itself, like, it adds to it. And all that was lost with the digital games, and it turned into a situation where you pay money to the company, and then there is no secondary markets for assets. You never have anything you can resell, so it's just paying for entertainment. It's like going to see a movie or something, which isn't necessarily bad, but it is demonstrably worse than you owning the assets and participating in the value creation alongside the company. So that's where, as soon as I realized that like blockchain allowed sort of the best of both worlds, digital games have like a lot of benefits over physical games. You don't have to sit there across the table from someone. You can play anytime with people anywhere around the world, and other cool things you can do. But now digital assets on the blockchain allowed you to also own your assets. So when the company, like when Splinterlands sells you cards, it's just as if you bought them physically at a store. They're yours. They're in your wallet. The company maintains no control over them. There's secondary markets. You can resell the cards. You can, verify the amount of every single card of every single type that's printed. So you know exactly how many there are and the value of them, all these things. And then, you use them to actually play a game. And the better you are at the game, it's PvP. You battle against other players with your collection of cards, and as you move up and get better, you earn more assets, both at NFTs, cryptocurrency tokens. So it's like by participating in this, which a lot of gamers, they play games anyway, they put money into games anyway, but by doing it with something like Splinterlands, they're also building up a valuable collection by doing something fun. And like you mentioned, they're also learning. It's a great entryway into the whole Bitcoin crypto space. They just play a game that they're familiar with, and they start earning these tokens and NFTs, and they start getting used to having a wallet and keys, and it's just like a fun, interesting way to just learn about everything. So that's that's a high level what Splinterlands is.
Do you guys have a mission? What motivates you when you're thinking about Splinterlands? What's your primary objective? What are you trying to accomplish with Splinterlands?
I mean, the goal overall, the initial goal is sort of what I just talked about, is combine the best of digital and physical gaming, and allow people to participate in the value creation alongside of our company. And it's really important for me. This is the product that I built, not because I thought like, hey, this is going to be a successful business. It was because like, this is personally what I needed. I spend more money than I care to admit on like traditional digital games. And I realize it's all just being thrown away. It's all a wasted expense. I have a family. I should be saving for retirement, all these things, college funds for kids or whatever. And so I feel bad, like, when I spend money on these games and doing things I want. And I realize here it kind of flips it all on its head, where I can play the games that I want, and I can have fun, and I can spend the money, but I'm also building up wealth in the process. So it's really a best of both worlds. So that's really like the core mission of Splinterlands, is to provide that. But that's easier said than done, right? Obviously, if we build a crappy product and it doesn't have longevity and whatever, then all the assets in the game are going to be worthless. So it's how do you marry these two things in a way that's sustainable over the long term, so we have a multi-decade life, like Magic the Gathering and Pokemon has. So that's like the day-to-day goal, is how we implement that bigger goal.
Well, I think you guys have done a great job. I feel like you've got to be one of the longest running Web3 games now. Would you mind running through just some quick stats on where you're at in terms of players? Because I think they got to be great.
Yeah, right now, we have around 50,000 daily active accounts that currently play Splinterlands. I always caveat that with accounts is different than people. And that's also fine and good. And it's one of the things we try to embrace, is that, if you don't have gatekeepers, which is a big benefit, it also means you can't gatekeep who can play the game or how they can interact with it. Right. So that's very important. And I think games that, specifically say like, oh, these accounts are banned, or these people, can only interact with it this way. They're acting as a gatekeeper. And that's kind of a red flag in that area. But yeah, so 50,000 daily active accounts roughly that play. We do something like 800,000 blockchain transactions every day, which is a massive number. It's, similar amount that the entire Ethereum blockchain does in a day. That's just for Splinterlands, and we've gone into the 3 to 4 million transactions a day range, in the last bull market. There's like tens of millions of dollars in market value for the NFTs and the tokens. Yeah, so it's a very vibrant, active, and engaged community. There's a lot of value already, but I think our goal is it's just scratching the surface of what we hope to be able to achieve.
You were the CTO of Splinterlands. You were the co-founder. You've been there since the beginning. Now you're CEO. What's the future? What does the future have in store for Splinterlands?
I mean, the future is very specifically this year. Our focus is on the player experience, which includes like the onboarding experience for new players. So over the years, we kind of took it for granted that there were these crypto gaming people who would come in and spend the time to figure all this stuff out. And then all our current player base is pretty much in that category. They're people who are just like really into this stuff like I am. And they spend the time to figure out all the nuances of the game. And we've never focused on marketing or promotion or any of that stuff in the past. And I think it's time that we really focus on that. That's how we take the game to the next level. So there's tons of features in the game. There's tons of different things to do for lots of different types of people who like different types of things. So rather than continue to just build out more and more features, which we will do, but before that, the focus is on really elevating the whole experience, and especially the onboarding experience. So when new people come in, rather than being thrown into this big thing that with all this new stuff that they have to figure out on their own, we're working on a really good onboarding, like fun gamified onboarding experience that takes you through not just how to play the game in battle, but like what are all the tokens, how does the market work, making it really easy for like new players to just do one click and kind of rent a set of cards to start playing with. So they come in with a good set of cards to be able to battle well, and not just nothing and have to go figure out what cards to buy by themselves. Things like that, making the whole experience of battling and moving up through the ranks and earnings more easy to understand and smooth. Then once that stuff's done, then we're going to really start pushing the marketing and promotion, which again we've never done. It's all been just like word of mouth, which has worked pretty well. But I think if we start promoting this and getting this out there for the first time, I think that can really explode our user base pretty quickly. And again, that benefits all of the existing players who are in the game. So everyone who's there now, or everyone who comes before that starts, like they are going to benefit when hopefully a flood of new players comes in, because those flood of new players are going to be buying assets or renting assets on the market from other people who have them. So that's kind of the near term future over the next year or two, is for the first time, we feel like we've got the core product in a good spot. We've got some really good features and a lot of good content. And now we're going to go out and make the onboarding experience and the player experience top notch. And then we're going to go get the word out as much as possible.
I think that sounds great. Yeah, that sounds exactly like what you guys should be doing. It's lowering that bounce rate. The last thing you want to do is spend all this money bringing new eyeballs to your product, and you got a high bounce rate. And that has been my least favorite aspect of the product over the years. Is I'm a busy guy. I want to support you guys. I know the game is great. I go in there and I'm like, these players have such an advantage over me because I just don't know what's going on. And I think in a bull market, I've definitely seen firsthand how bull market logic can lead you to make a whole bunch of decisions that wind up biting you in the butt later on, where you're just people have the incentive to jump through the hoops. So instead of getting rid of the hoops, you focus on new flashy features and things like that. And I'm not saying you guys made a wrong decision, and you weren't CEO at the time anyway. And these can seem like boring things. I think we have a lot of analogous challenges in the Koinos ecosystem now, where it's like, hey, we need to get the tooling better, we got to get the documentation better. But it's the same underlying problem, which is that if a developer comes in and the documentation doesn't give them what they want, they leave. And you don't see that person, you don't see the player that doesn't join Splinterlands. But if you can unblock that and get that bounce rate from 90% to 10%, the growth and the benefits that accrue to the platform are incredible.
Yeah, and it's, again, like whether wrong decision or right decision, like we're always going to make wrong decisions here and there. It's a completely kind of new space and we're figuring it out. But I feel like that's one of our biggest advantages actually, is that we've been working on figuring this out for 5.5 years now. So we have a big advantage there. Like we've tried a bunch of things. We've made a lot of mistakes. We understand what works and what doesn't work. And I think we're pretty well focused now on what works and just going and doing it. And so that's a big advantage over a lot of the other projects that come in. And a lot of them are really flashy, right? They have partnerships with celebrities or whatever, brands and things, and they have amazing graphics and all this stuff. But that's not what's new here, right? There's always been games and products that have, celebrities
not on the
and
blockchain.
brands that have great graphics and all these things. Like we're not focusing on that stuff that's already been done. We're focusing on how we make it work for sustainable value creation for players over the long term. That's the new stuff. That's what hasn't been done, at least digitally. And so that's where we focus our effort.
Yeah, so many people think they got a great idea for a game. They're going to make the graphics all flashy. They're going to use the latest tech, and people are just going to flood in and play this game. And there's only one way to know whether people are going to love playing a game and more people are going to want to play that game over time. And that's that they're doing it. And you guys have a game that people love playing, that's been around for 5 years. And I think you're totally spot on. You guys have learned, no doubt, right? We were in this parallel situation where we were working on the Steam blockchain and Steemit.com, and there were successes and failures. And from all of that, we learned so much. So I have no doubt. I mean, I know you have learned so much through this experience, including how to build a great game and a successful game, which you have. And so I think you guys are so well positioned to take this gem that you have and blow it up.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too, and that's exactly what we're working on right now. As far as the game itself, I mean, for people who aren't familiar with it, one of the other things I see a lot, especially in this space, is that people just copy other existing popular games almost exactly, and then just throw in blockchain and NFTs and crypto, which I get. You want to take what's worked in the past, but I think people also want new things. They're like, you're not going to be better than those other games typically that you're copying. So, most times people will just play the original ones that are, more well-funded and just like, better game designers. And also, like, you actually have to change the design of the games a bit to fit with this, right? It's like Hearthstone would work differently if it, had tradable assets in third-party markets. So Splinterlands is not a copy of any other game. It's a completely unique and I think very interesting game idea. And it's built from the ground up specifically to work within this environment, which is, I think, very different than a lot of the other games. Not all, but a lot of the games in the space, which are just like, hey, take X popular game, build a different version of it, and throw in NFTs. I don't think that's more of like a quick, gimmick versus really a long-term successful product.
Do you think there's been any benefit to you guys also adopting a blockchain in Steam, now Hive, that was very fast and fearless? Now we see a general move in the space to like low fee, high performance chains, but this is relatively new, whereas you guys have been building your game based on the assumption of high speed and feelessness. Do you think that provides you with any advantage versus your competitors?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, we kind of realized very early on that like it's flat out not going to work at all. Like trying to play a game where you have to pay fees for every transaction and just all the hoops you have to jump through um, for a lot of the other chains. I mean, it worked very well in that like, you know, again as a short-term gimmick type of thing. Like there's a lot of people who are into crypto, who have crypto, who know how it works, and they want the opportunity to play these type of games. So there a lot of money went into those things, but like longer term, when you look down the road, like it's just 100% not going to work in that scenario. So that's why we went the way we did. We were like, people can't have to set up a wallet and buy crypto in order to play the game. That just and you know some people go a different route where they say, okay, well, you know, all the assets are going to be on the blockchain, and so you'll need like crypto or whatever and wallets to trade in the assets. But if you just want to play the game, you know, we just run centralized game servers, and everything else is sort of off chain. And we wanted to put everything on chain, but also do it in a way that's easy for people to use. And I'd add another thing. It's not just like feeless and fast. I really think the biggest deterrent is the security around it. And you know, because these games, whether they have fees or not, or whether they have fast blockchain transactions or not, they ask people to put all this money, buy all these NFTs and tokens and whatever into this product. And then if they click on one wrong phishing link or whatever, do something stupid, they get hacked and they lose everything, and the company can't help them, right? Because it's a decentralized blockchain. That to me is the biggest non-starter for the majority of people in the world. I mean, even very technical people and people who have been in this space a long time have gotten hacked. Like it's almost impossible to not at some point, and the hackers are going to get more, you know, sophisticated and better over time. So it's like that was actually the biggest thing that Steam and now Hive has, that still is, you know, it just in the very early stages of getting put in other blockchains, the whole idea of account abstraction. And the ability to have multiple keys associated with a wallet with different permissions, the ability to do account recovery. And, you know, it started for me like I worry a lot about securing my Bitcoin and Ether and all these things, but I never really worried about securing my Steam or Hive because I knew it was all staked, right? And if someone hacked all my keys, my entire account, they could only start unstaking my tokens, and then I have time to go use the decentralized account recovery process to recover my account and stop the unstaking, and I don't lose any tokens. So I'm like, I'm good, right? And so we basically took that and we've implemented the same. We've utilized that in Splinterlands. So we have the same thing. People can put money in, they can buy assets and tokens, they can stake them. And even if they get hacked, our support helps them with their account recovery process, and they stop the unstaking of their tokens, and they don't lose everything. And we've, we had hundreds of cases of this happening, and our support team, works with them, and they recover the account. And so, to me, that's actually the biggest, the biggest advantage to Hive in this case. And I know Koinos has similar things, and I know they're working on account abstraction on EVM and other chains. But that one thing most people don't think about, but is more important than even faster feeless transactions.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you bring that up. I'm so glad you did bring it up, because I don't know if you probably don't know this, but we just had our second in-band upgrade of Koinos, and it was our first community submitted upgrade, and it was to add something called I think it was to add token allowances, but basically it's thinking ahead to smart wallets and getting smart wallets and getting that ability to have multiple keys and getting that control, having that account recovery. So it was already something that the community is pushing forward, and we all want to see happen. But I think this is a good message. Like, definitely keep working on that. And the thing about account recovery and all these capabilities that you get from smart wallets is, I think, from what I understand, gas fees dramatically limit the kind of user experience and the kind of capabilities that you get that become, the whole point of account recovery is you're supposed to make it easy for somebody to, control their account and prevent people from doing that stuff. Now imagine you got to pay the gas fee to have this basic functionality. It's not an ideal solution to the problem.
No, definitely not. I mean, I still prefer to have it and have to pay more for it than not have it. But yeah, so it's sort of a trifecta of things, security, speed, and and no fees. And I think even a lot of people, like, they're like, oh, well, we have very low fees, but there's actually, it doesn't matter that much, because that the barrier is there, and that people need to get cryptocurrency, right? And it doesn't matter if you're getting 1 cent worth of cryptocurrency or $1 million worth of cryptocurrency. It is a difficult process. The process doesn't become easier if you're only buying a very small amount, right? If anything, it's becoming harder and harder, especially in the US, to do. So just having gas fees at all, period, of any amount, even a fraction of a cent, still has that same level of barrier to entry for most people. So again, that's why chains like Hive, where we Splinterlands can be responsible for getting the cryptocurrency and staking it, and allowing our users to use the platform. It just seems clearly the way to go.
Yeah, I certainly agree. This has been a great conversation. We've covered a lot of great ground. That last point, I feel like, I got to give you $5 for making it for us. That it's usually my line.
That's my gas fee for.
yeah. You can pay your gas fees. Was there anything else you wanted to tell anyone? Anything that people should look forward to in Splinterlands?
I mean, I guess I'll just recap some of the things I talked about. A little TLDR, I guess. We are focusing 100% on the onboarding experience, and then we're going to do marketing and promotion for the game. So our goal is, we're putting all our time and resources into making this explode over the next couple years, hopefully also going into a bull market. So people who want to take the time and learn things before that's all in place have a big opportunity, I think, to get in now. Obviously not financial advice. And then I also just encourage people in this space in general to think more about how can they build up a portfolio of high quality assets, rather than how much can I extract on a periodic basis. I think that's the path to success.
I love it. Well, thanks so much for joining me today and recording this episode. I think you did a great job. I think the future of Splinterlands is bright, and I can't wait to see what you guys do with the game.
Thanks. I'm also super excited about Koinos and to see what you guys do with that.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thanks for watching this episode of the Koinos podcast. Don't forget to follow Koinos Network on Twitter and YouTube. You can also listen to the Koinos podcast on your favorite podcasting platform.